Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome. On behalf of Fred Pryor and Learning Systems, we appreciate you being here. We're going to jump right into today's topic, and that is a deep dive into the career of comedian, who is this? Rodney Dangerfield, right? He's the guy that made himself famous with the funny line of, "You get no respect while fiddling with his tie," right? Let me tell you that there are no dumb questions, so I encourage all of you to ask questions. Holy cow, all 40 of you have your hands up. Ma'am, you have a question? Yes. Oh, let me repeat the question. The question is, what the heck's going on? I didn't pay for a class on Rodney Dangerfield or any other comedian. I came for a Respect in the Workplace program and sexual harassment training. But you know, I think I know what's happened. I got an email last week about this class from Pryor Learning System, and it said, "Chris, be sure to emphasize the fact that there is an increasing amount of incivility in the workplace and no respect." And of course, when I heard no respect, when I read no respect, I thought of Rodney Dangerfield, so that's what I came prepared to talk about today. But I have a backup plan, and that is I actually have the content for today's class. And that is harassment. So our time together is going to be very short, so let me fly through some basics. What is harassment? There's two types of harassment. Harassment based on a protected class, which includes sexual orientation, sex itself, or religion, and so forth. We know what those are. And sexual harassment, very specifically sexual harassment. Here in California, it's a requirement under state law that every 2 years, managers and supervisors, anybody who supervises another, gets this kind of training, 2 hours. That law has been around since 2005. In 2012, they added that bullying as a content has to be added. And then effective in January of 2019, which is just a few days away, every employee in this state needs to have 1 hour of training provided by their employer. So this is a really important topic that our state and the country takes very, very seriously. Again, two types of harassment. Quid pro quo, this is Latin for this for that. This is the classic type of harassment that the law was originally intended to cover. And hostile work environment. What makes a work environment hostile? This is very murky. It exists where an employee is subjected to unwelcome harassment, where that harassment is based on a protected personal characteristic. The harassment is severe or pervasive. Those are legal terms. I'll touch briefly on them. The harassment affects a term, condition, or privilege of employment. So unwelcome means just that the victim didn't ask for this. It's the guy who's constantly, typically it's the guy, although this applies to anybody, both sexes, but somebody who's persistently hassling a woman at work to go out with them. After a few times of saying no, you ought to get the clue. But it's unwelcomed in any event. There are some factors that the courts look at on what makes it severe or pervasive. So severe is exactly that. It's severe. It's really ugly. Certainly when there's any touching of inappropriate touching of body parts, that's automatic. That is going to be severe, even if it was one time. It could be subtle things that are said or done, leering, winks, that kind of thing. If it happens repeatedly, maybe not even repeatedly, but over the course of time, you know, a case could be made that it's pervasive. Does it affect the victim's working environment? Is the conduct threatening or violent? Is the conduct humiliating? Quid pro quo. This is the obvious stuff. You know, this is the old Hollywood casting couch. At least after Harvey Weinstein, I hope this is old and on its way out. This is putting out to get a job or get some benefit. Go out with me and I'll give you a raise. You know, that kind of thing. This is the obvious stuff, and we know it when we see it. It's the subtle, though, can also be involved here. Things like, I can make things really easy around here for you. You want a friend like me on your side? Or a poor performance review comes right on the heels of a rejected romantic overture. Those are facts that, as a company, you don't want to be facing. Civility equals respect, usually. Civility in the workplace can help prevent harassment in the workplace. Civility means different things to different people, but it always comes back to the same thing, and that's showing respect for other people. Respect can be shown in a number of ways: kindness, courtesy, honesty, etc. Here are the terrible 10 situations that drive people crazy and are considered incivil. Taking credit for somebody else's work, using a cell phone, texting, surfing the internet during conversations, interrupting a conversation, not saying good morning to somebody who comes in and we say good morning to everybody else. I can't tell you how many times that has been the instigating factor in at least 4 cases that I can think of in my career where a discriminatory case was filed and the person said, the boss says good morning to everybody, doesn't say good morning to me. I'm being picked on, I'm being isolated by that. Workplace bullying, intimidating or threatening someone, screaming, name calling, using profanity. I don't know if anybody's experienced that in your workplaces, but this is the stuff that leads to lawsuits and agency complaints. Well, we're up to the first break. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and when we come back, we'll go into some detail, actual cases that I've been involved with in my career. How many of you know the name J.K. Simmons? For those of you who don't, you've heard his voice and you know his name. Or know his face. He is the actor in the Farmers Insurance commercials who plays the deadpan professor, who famously says, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Well, I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two, probably 1,000 things or two, in every imaginable part of the employment relationship. And I'll be able to point up some of these legal concepts with actual cases that I've been involved with. So make sure you get back on time, and after the break, we'll see you.